welcome to another segment of the Sequire Spotlight. I'm Carmel Fisher, Vice President of Sequire here at Strax, as well as the host of the show that brings you up-to-date market news and spotlights some of our very popular companies on our books. Today, we are taking a conversation journey with CEO Mr. Ron Dutt from Flux Power Holdings, Inc., with the NASDAQ ticker FLUX. Welcome.
Thank you, Carmel.
Wonderful having you, Ron. So to get us all just acquainted with Flux Power Holdings, please give us an overview of what this company is all about.
Yes, thanks. We are a company that manufactures lithium batteries for large fleets, very large format, to material handling fleets that operate forklifts of all sizes and provide the lithium batteries for them, focused on Fortune 500 companies. And we also do some what we call product adjacencies for the trucks on the tarmac for the airport ground support equipment.
Wonderful. So, a lot's been happening in the market, many changes, supply chain situations continuing, inflation, etc. How has any of those impacted Flux Power during these times?
Like many others, the pandemic and the related supply chain disruption has affected us very significantly. It caused us to experience a lot of delays in parts coming from China. We source our battery cells like many others from China. So we had delays back up at the ports. We had unprecedented price increases in steel and other components, and especially shipping costs and electronic components. We, like many others, were out chasing microchips, capacitors, and other components, while in the early days where everybody were doing what we call toilet paper runs. And so it was kind of a mad scramble. So it affected us, a lot affected us financially in our gross margins, as we have a fairly long period of orders to cash to buy parts before we can collect. So our working capital requirements increased dramatically. But since last January, things have been settling out, sorting out a lot of the actions we're taking to deal with that. Like many other companies, we're making very good progress. There's still disruption in the marketplace, but it's much more manageable. And we're seeing a dramatic decrease in what we call shorts, or parts that were late, very late. Right. And in the midst of this, I'd say, because there's such great demand for our products, we've been having record quarters, reporting record quarters as we're listed on NASDAQ and report quarterly. So it's been quite a period dealing with that.
Wonderful, and it's a great segue into the recent fiscal reportings for 2022. Can you elaborate on that? We're seeing a significant increase, as you mentioned, in purchase orders going up to 83%. What else can you draw our attention to given those recent reports?
Well, I think the results we reported reflected our continued trajectory over the past 3 years of growth rates, annual growth rates, 50% or greater. That's continued. That's continued unabated. I think we reported purchase orders during that fiscal year, $65 million, and for the fiscal year results for that 12-month period, $42 million in revenue. So you can just see that momentum is there. And it's continuing. We could ship more, we could do more, given the demand for lithium. And the only constraints were some supply chain restraints, which caused some constraint on that. And also, we're at the point where, despite the over 50% growth rates, we have a number one priority of reaching profitability in the very near future. And we're very focused on that. And I felt we really couldn't grow faster than that and maintain to achieve our goal of profitability, since it's very important in the marketplace as a public company. to continue our trajectory of being a leader in this sector with these Fortune 500 companies over the future. We expect that pace to continue, if not grow. And of course, working capital facilities are very important to put in place to that. So it's all part of that plan. We're executing to that. We're very exciting about not having any demand problem. I mean, the product, great demand for it, and we're just executing to have a very solid basis to achieve these long-term goals.
Wonderful. So it sounds like the demand, as you're saying, is definitely there. It's just about making sure we can fulfill those requests and orders. So speaking in the same vein of your current customer base, how do you foresee, or what is the strategy to, further the growth? As you mentioned, there's a great momentum. Are there specific strategies in place to keep that momentum going in terms of acquiring new customers?
Yes, there is. In fact, we even had in our incentive, our bonus incentive plan last year to achieve so many new, very large customers, and large customers that are sustainable. Note that customers, these large fleets, Fortune 100, 500 fleets, they have facilities typically all over the country when they're for material handling needs in their facilities, and they want a supplier who can fulfill their needs on time, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and very difficult to be just be a transaction supplier, the lowest bid this month, pick somebody else next month. So it's a relationship that we have with these companies, and we have a slide on our deck and our website that illustrates the actual numbers of new customers we add each year, and the successive subsequent growth as they fill out their fleets. So if you want to refer to that as an installed base, that continues to grow because of the long-term relationship. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we're adding new large customers each year, and adding to that, and we're continuing that pace of adding those customers. The sales cycle is typically well more than a month or two. They have to ensure that the packs perform the way we say they're going to, and how it's going to fit in their operations, committing their capital budgets and operating budgets to support that. So once that gets in place, you really can perform to that, and of course, you've got to perform each month with these large companies, and we're very excited about that.
Sounds exciting indeed. Geographically, can you mention any of the territories you're currently in, and as well as any expansion opportunities that are on the horizon in terms of locations?
Yeah, we have more business than we can ever imagine here in the United States. With the bankers have validated that it's well over a $2 billion annual addressable market. So there's a lot, and the adoption rate of lithium is really expanding very well. So most of our business in the U.S., of course, with the firms we have there, most of them are multinationals. We are shipping to Canada and Mexico, and have a great nationally based distributor in Mexico that actually connects us with some of these large multinationals as a way of introducing lithium to them. We have a private label with an OEM, and they're interested in us expanding our shipping to Europe and South America, and so that's in the offing. The one thing I'm very concerned about is that I don't want to grow faster than our infrastructure can support it, because our customers, these Fortune 100, 500, I spent most of my life with a few of those. It's extremely important that you have the infrastructure and support with the quality to deliver on time. Delivery times are critical, so you have the manufacturing capacity, and you have the service. Everything needs some kind of service, whether it's training people, training techs, handling service issues. and that involves a nationwide footprint. So having all that is extremely important to ensure that when you add this 50% growth per year, you already have the infrastructure in place to support that. So it's an really exciting position to be in.
I 100% agree, and I enjoy the thought of you mentioning that it is not compromising on the quality of the service and everything provided, regardless of the growth. So it's about just keeping that all in alignment, and that's generally sustainable long term. So there's a big push in the United States, of course, towards renewable energy. With ESG being a hot topic at the moment for customers and investors, how do you want them to think about Flux Power and their alignment with ESG going forward?
Yeah, we're at the right place, the right time with ESG. I mean, we're in very much part of this electrification in the marketplace. Our packs are so much more efficient than either lead acid or propane, which they replace typically lead acid with the big fleets. That because we use less energy to do the same amount of work, we use less energy from the utility companies in the form of kilowatt hours, which is the measure of that energy. And we use the federal government standards to identify, well, how much kilowatt hours of energy you save translates into tons of carbon dioxide saved in the atmosphere. So all of our customers, we calculate this and show this, they understand it. All these Fortune 500 companies have ESG or clean tech initiatives, so it resonates very significantly with them. So it's a very attractive part of what we offer them. However, and I'd say at the same time, we haven't taken any government incentives, so the economics work for our customers to the extent that all our customers, when they migrate to our products, they experience a lifetime cost reduction every time. So it's kind of a win-win on all those fronts, both the environment, cost savings, and they can move more pounds. In other words, do more work.
Sounds great. Have you heard of the new notion factories of the future? Are you familiar with that new kind of term out there?
It's a good question. It's really keying off the phrase "factory of the future" is a big deal. We kind of live that. I mean, everybody's living that has any kind of factory at all, and it largely centers around automation. There's so much automation material going. We are supplying or are working on supplying battery packs for warehouse automation, and going to be actively delivering some packs on that at the beginning of the year. So we see that as a natural extension of our work. We're in all these warehouses anyway, so the automation of that, and also automation of forklifts. So there's progress already made by some of the OEMs of putting battery packs in forklifts that are fully automated. So kind of early days, but you can just see the progress. It's very exciting progress on the automation. I would say also factories of the future really involves electronics. I mean, we have basically a computer on our pack with lithium as opposed to lead acid, which doesn't. So we communicate with the internet and Amazon platform, for example, and so we can communicate data, speak to anything, anywhere, to anybody, any place about the pack, the state of health, and the location of that pack, and also communicate with all of the equipment. So I think once you very simply introduce a computer and into the mix of the factory of the future, all of a sudden you have an explosion of different opportunities, and those are growing. We're growing daily. I view our telemetry, which is the communication of data, as a core competency. Our strategy is to have as good or better telemetry and technology as we go forth into the future. So it's a very core capability of supporting the growth as of this factory of the future, if you will.
Excellent. And the growth is the hot word of this conversation we're having. And I thoroughly enjoy hearing that because, you know, as we're progressing, of course, growth is ultimately what we're striving for. Given the recent growth shown in your report for the fiscal quarter and full year 2022 results, we saw revenue increase 61%, which is quite considerable, in my opinion. What would you attribute that to?
The growth is somewhat related to what I was mentioning earlier. First of all, there's a demand for electrification, demand for lithium out there in the marketplace. 5 or 6 years ago, I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years. 5 or 6 years ago, we could hardly give our packs away because people were so uncertain about the benefit, and could the supplier really support multi-billion dollar company. So, you know, we're past that and delivering to those companies. So,
you know, it sounds like the growth is amazing, but what issues or obstacles, apart from supply chain, apart from making sure that you can actually deliver on all those demands, what other issues or obstacles are currently in your way, and how do you plan on overcoming those?
You know, when you grow fast, there's always obstacles, and there's certainly keeping our infrastructure up with the growth I mentioned, and the growth from the installed base and the new customers, and it's just our goal is kind of balancing that growth with the infrastructure, as I mentioned, which is driving that growth you just mentioned in the previous question. So keeping that infrastructure there, the organization, the everything that supports that with the companies we're in, and keeping that performance up. I'd say as part of that, again, a little bit related to what I talked about before, the growth trajectory we're on is going to require capital. And for us, achieving that balance of growth and achieving profitability is the challenge we have. We're very confident. We have very detailed plans toward achieving that, with cost reductions, competitive pricing, and also a good focus on the type of sectors, you know, industrial sectors we're in, where it really makes sense, where you really capitalize on the value proposition of those sectors and the type of customers we have. So you put all that together, and that's what's really driving it. The challenges are great, and we're looking forward to, as we achieve profitability, to looking at those next steps of partnerships and other expansions, and not only to exploiting the growth in the material handling sector, but then what we call natural product extensions.
Excellent. Thank you for recapping all of that. In terms of your management team or corporate changes in general, have there been any recent announcements regarding that?
We just announced appointment of our Jim Rooney to be Vice President of Engineering, which is I've been really excited about him. He's local in the community. A known person here in the community that you know, I know his prior CEO pretty well. So it's great getting known quantities that are really good, that fit. As we grow very rapidly, we have to have the right people in the right jobs for the phase of growth of Flux, and I think he brings a lot of experience with a local company here, and have the confidence that he can help us, you know, as we engineer new platforms, new product adjacencies, keeping up with best in class practices of for engineering our products, which is, you know, a key, one of our core competencies.
Wonderful. We're looking forward to hearing more about his accomplishments in the future. Where do you see Flux and your industry in the next 5 years?
I see us, based on the progress we have right now, and the reputation we have in leading this sector, continuing this growth, establishing our reputation as somebody that these large companies can trust, communicate, we can deliver, that have a set of values and culture that they believe is the kind of supplier they want. So that's going to lead to a fair amount of growth. We have a very collaborative mindset with our culture. So I think collaborating in partnerships, which we've already had some discussions, we've done some projects and things like autonomous shuttle vehicles, mobile vehicle charging. We see a lot of other opportunities to exploit our footprint, because we need to build scale. If we're going to be a supplier to these large companies, it's inevitable. You just have to build scale for that infrastructure, and that's the path we've been on for 9 years now. And I'm very confident of it. I know it can be done, and we're actually doing it. It takes a lot of hard work, but over the coming 5 years or more, I mean, that's the value proposition we are bringing. I think in this sector, it's kind of common knowledge. There's going to be some consolidation. There's a number of players now, more players in this sector. You've got the equipment manufacturers looking hard. How do they want to handle the lithium battery packs in terms of, do they want to partner? Do they want to own? There's all that in the future that lies in front of us. Just remember that in material handling, lithium is about 7% of the market right now. So it's still fairly early days, but growing fast. Right. So it's for us at Flux, it's a very exciting time with what we're doing, because our strategy has remained on focus for 8 years, and not that we won't adapt to changes in the future, but we see that the traction we're getting certainly leads us to feel confident about where we can be in the next 5 to 10 years.
So everywhere we go, there will be competition. How does Flux Power stand up against the competitive landscape you find yourself in? Anything that our investors or viewers should know that obviously makes Flux stand out?
I think the kind of customers that we have had that's chosen us from our competitors, and we have a number of competitors. Our CTO reviewed their products, and a number of them have very solid products. So, in fact, I know most of the CEOs, and I said, I wish all of you well. Give lithium a good name, because there's plenty of room for all of us at this point. But I think what we've done, we have invested heavily, as I mentioned before, in this infrastructure, because we realize that it takes more than just putting a best-in-class product with quality and technology, and it takes a lot to do that. But also these larger companies want more than that. That's not enough. That's necessary, but it is not sufficient. You have to have the service, the ease of doing business, the relationship, the reputation, and the reputation for somebody they can trust. You get straight answers. The people that you have, both from a technical and engineering standpoint, that interface either with the OEMs or with the customers, your technical people with the customers servicing packs, are people that are very competent and people they can trust and have ease of doing business, and can support a nationwide network of facilities that these customers have. So I think when they look at Flux, the feedback, we do get positive feedback on all those points. And so I think it's a table with quite a few legs on it that you have to have if you're going to not only just win some business, but be sustainable and have that reputation as that a new customer will want to talk to an existing customer when they look at these suppliers. What are they really like, and what's your experience? So that's what I'm gratified to see us being successful in that.
Wonderful. So what I'm taking from that conversation or that comment is the fact that you're not a newbie, but you're in a fairly new industry that's ever growing, ever fast. And so the place where we should place our trust is in a company that knows how to sustain growth, by doing scalability the right way, nurturing those relationships and maintaining them over time. With that, growth is inevitable. I'm speaking to Mr. Ron Dutt, the CEO of Flux Power Holdings. I'm Carmel Fisher, and you're watching the Sequire Spotlight.